Hello everybody, welcome to Arpita Sharma classes. We are here to cover important topics in world history for prelims 2021. Before starting the class, I would like to make a small announcement regarding the price hike on Unacademy Plus. As you all know that Arpita Sharma ma'am is taking live classes on Unacademy Plus on history and polity. You can subscribe to Unacademy Plus as there is going to be a price hike from 20th October. You can use the code Sharma20 and get 10% discount on Unacademy Plus. Now, you can subscribe for either 1 month or 3 months, 6 months or 12 months. Hurry up students, subscribe now and avail Arpita Sharma ma'am's sessions and handmade notes on Unacademy Plus for your UPSC preparation journey. So use the code Sharma20 and reap the benefits. Hurry up students. Let's begin. So today we will be discussing about imperialism, right? Previously we have dealt with French Revolution, Russian Revolution, American Revolution, and now we come to one of the most important topics, that is imperialism. Now see, imperialism is basically, I hope you have read about colonialism. So colonialism can be called a subset of imperialism. Like, for example, in the form of Venn diagram, if we see, so this is imperialism and colonialism is its subset, right? So imperialism, or the basically the policy of imperialism, what is it, how can we define it? Let's discuss it. Basically, imperialism has been derived from a Latin term imperium, which means command. So to command somebody or to command is basically imperialism, or it can also be defined as extending the control over a country across borders. So if a country tries to control or tries to control another country across its borders and moves across its borders, ahead of its border, then it is said to be an imperialistic nation. It can be done by a colonialism or military action. So either you colonialize a country, either you make it a colony, or militarize it, or have a military coup in the country. So in either ways, you can be an imperialistic nation, or you can imperialize a nation. Now it can also be direct imperialism or indirect imperialism. For example, what Britishers did to India, they indirectly imperialized India. Firstly, they made India a colony, then they took over the administrative control, the judicial control in India, and they tried to govern India by sitting in England itself. So India was also imperialized, or they started to imperialize India as well, because this philosophy of imperialism has been in existence since 19th century. Now, what were the factors that gave birth to imperialism? Factors that gave birth to the theory of imperialism. Firstly, the growth of unilateral trade. How the growth of unilateral trade? See, an imperialistic nation or an expansionist nation will definitely try to encourage the unilateral trade, because it will help that home country. So unilateral trade in a way encourages imperialism or tries to fuel imperialism. Also because many colonies during the 19th century were losing their sovereignty. For example, India was one of them. China was also one of the countries that was losing its sovereignty. In today's scenario, you won't believe that China was a colony someday. But it is true that China was Britain's colony, or China or various other countries like Germany, etc. They were all colonized by Britain. So colonies, when they were losing their sovereignty, they became a very easy target to be imperialized by the mother nation. Also, the resources of various colonies that were colonized by big countries or big powers like Britain, they were exploited of their resources. Hence, this also gave rise to imperialism. Then the plantation sector, it provided cotton, spices. You must have read in modern history that India was imperialized or colonialized basically because of the spices, because it was India that provided spices to the world. The world did not know about spices. The world did not have such a tasty food without spices. Okay, so India was basically the place where spices came from. So India was imperialized, or various countries like India were imperialized or colonialized because of the plantation sector, because that sector provided the imperialistic nations like basically products or commodities like cotton and spices. Also, the ideology of materialistic advancement also led to imperialism, because a country or the people of a country, if they want to be materialistic, for example USA, materialism developed in USA as well. Similarly, Britain was a materialistic country, so the people wanted to, or they were of materialistic mindset. Hence, in order to have the, or in order to advance materialistically, they tried to imperialize other countries in the world. Now, it should be led to imperialism. So, now what are the factors that basically lead to imperialism? Sorry, it is correct. Now, what are the factors? Firstly, the rise of industrial capitalism. How the rise of industrial capitalism? See, capitalism is in which the trade or basically is made free, and it has very less government control. So, industrial capitalism was on the rise during the 19th century, and hence it led to imperialism. Also, internal conflicts in the colonies gave way to imperialism. For example, if we talk about India, in India, the princely states, they had their own conflicts. Then the various powers like the Marathas, Rajputs, they had their internal conflicts. So this gave rise to, or this helped Britishers to imperialize India, because if a country has internal conflicts, it is not united, and hence it is very easy for any outsider country to imperialize or colonialize such a nation. Then new colonies were being set up. Hence, it was one of the subset, or colonialism is a subset of imperialism. So, setting up of new colonies led to imperialism. Technological development, for example, weapons were being developed, navies were being developed. This also led to imperialism. Redrawal of boundaries. All the countries during basically the 18th to 19th century, redrawal of boundaries was taking place. For example, if you talk about even if you talk about Britain or USA or France, they were all redrawing their boundaries. They were trying to annex territories as much as possible. Hence, this also led to imperialism. Jingoism, I have already explained you what is Jingoism in the previous lessons. If you have not understood, please go through the previous lessons. Then lack of big empires. If I talk about India, it lacked big empires who could sustain imperialism. There was not any big empire in India who could stop Britain from imperializing or colonizing India. Hence, similarly, like India, there were other countries as well which did not have many big empires, so they were easy to imperialize. Explorers, adventurers, for example, Vasco da Gama or Amerigo Vespucci or various other people, Bartholomew Dias, they were all explorers and adventurers, so they tried to colonize and then imperialize the nation. And the spread of Christian missionaries, they also tried to influence the people of a colony, and hence it also led to imperialism. Now, what were the types of colonies that were a part of, or what were the type of colonies which were imperialistic? Firstly, we will talk about the dependent colonies, or the colonies that were dependent or the imperialistic nations were dependent on them. For example, India or Egypt or even Africa. For example, on Africa, Britain was dependent for slaves because slavery was very much prevalent here. For India, they were dependent because of resources, spices, cotton, silk. Egypt, there were other resources that they were dependent upon, hence they were the dependent colonies, because the administrative and the political control was under the hands of Britain. Then the plantation colonies, for example, Jamaica, because they had plantation grounds, and Trinidad. These were the regions which have plantations and also were a good or they were provided, or they used to provide good labor. Hence, Fiji, Mauritius, these were the colonies which provided labor for plantation sector. Then the trading ports. Trading ports like Singapore, Hong Kong, Macau, these were the areas which were entry points for the British that provided trade, or the trading ports. So, the example could be Singapore, Macau, etc. Right. Then also the settler colonies. What were the settler colonies? The regions or the colonies where the British tried to settle their population were known as the settler colonies. For example, Canada, they have British population. Then North America, and other like New Zealand, Australia, etc. So they were trying to wipe out the natives from these regions and try to settle their own people here, right? So these were the settler colonies. I hope you have understood them all. Now, imperialistic expansion took place in various regions. Now we will explain them, or I'll explain them in detail. For example, Indonesia, the Dutch East India Company, they were also known as the Spice Islands, and they were initially colonized by Spain and Portugal. During 1619 AD, Dutch East India Company was established, and it led to commercialization of agriculture, establishment of missionaries, and as a result, the national movement took place in 20th century, which was taken over by Pejaji and peasants. Now, what led to the national movements? Now, see, the people of Indonesia were being suppressed by Portugal and Portuguese and the people of Spain, and hence this led to the national movement. And this national movement during the 20th century was led by Pejaji and peasants. Now, who were the Pejajis? Pejajis were the middle class, or the people that belonged to the middle class. So they rose in revolt, and as a result, in 1940s, the region of Indonesia was acquired or occupied by Japanese. Then China was ruled by Qing dynasty. Qing dynasty in 1611 the colonization of China took place, but Chinese king did not allow foreigners at eastern coast. He did not like the Britishers are using their territory for their own business, and hence the Chinese king restricted the trade, and only entry at Canton port was allowed for foreigners. So all the ports were closed and only the Canton port was open for foreigners to trade, but British did not like it. So what happened? They started smuggling opium, and opium was smuggled from India to China, which also led to the opium wars. And during these opium wars, China lost, and finally various measures were taken by English or the British East India Company. For example, the Charter Act of 1833. And China expanded its territory. British expanded its territory. Finally, French Indochina. Basically, this region was a Chinese territory that was captured by France on the basis of the mission Civil Astres. Civil Astres was then French Indochina. French Indochina was basically initially a Chinese territory, the areas of Vietnam, etc. today. So Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, these were the territories that were the French Indochina at that time, and they were captured by France. Okay, France used to work on a mission known as the Civil Astres. Civil Astres was that they were on a mission to civilize the people of the world, and it was their duty to civilize the people of their world, and hence they tried to occupy other nations in the name of civilization or civilizing people. They set up a bureaucracy there. There was huge corruption, rampant corruption, and centralized power. But the French were much more interested in rice and rubber, because Vietnam, Cambodia, these regions were very rich in rice and rubber. I have already told you the regions where they exploit resources and then colonize the other countries. So rice and rubber were the resources that the French were interested in, and also they were having abundant labor, which were known as coolies. Finally, French Indochina was decolonized after Second World War. Japan was basically an isolated territory. It used to be very much aloof from the Western powers and was ruled by Tokugawa Shogunate dynasty from 17th to 19th century. Finally, it was revived by the Meiji dynasty, and in 1894, Aoki-Kimberley Treaty took place, where Japan sided with Britain on the Pact of Equal Treatment. Finally, Turkey. Turkey is also known as the sick man of Europe, or the sick man of Europe, which was ruled by Ottoman Empire with the leader as Khalifa. So King Wilhelm tried to control it via Berlin to Baghdad railway line via Constantinople. So what did King Wilhelm try to do? King Wilhelm tried to control Turkey via infrastructural projects. How? Because he tried to build a railway structure from Berlin to Baghdad. And what did he do? By building it by constructing the Berlin to Baghdad railway line, what did he try to do? He basically tried to reach India, or eventually coming to India via Constantinople. But what happened? Turkey lost in World War I, because Turkey was a part of one of the powers, one of Central Powers and Allied Powers. I hope you remember there were two powers. Turkey was on the losing side, and finally, because Turkey lost in the war, colonies of Turkey were divided between Britain and France through the League of Nations mandate system. So, what was the mandate system? League of Nations was a body that was formed by after World War I, as per the peace treaty, because it was thought that there should be an organization that should prevent future wars, and hence League of Nations was established, and the colonies of League of Nations and the colonies of Turkey were divided by League of Nations on the basis of mandate system. Mandate system was basically, now see, League of Nations was dominated by Britain and US or such powers. So, mandate system, as per the mandate system, it was decided that the few colonies of Turkey will be given to Britain and France and so on. Finally, Khalifa was ill-treated and removed from throne in Turkey, which also gave rise to the Khilafat movement in India. I hope you have read about it in modern history as well. Now, an important part, that is Africa. Scramble of Africa, you can also, now I hope you know what is scramble. Basically, if you have played the game of scramble, you have to name or you have to make a name with the help of few alphabets. Similarly, what happened in Africa? It is also known as scramble of Africa, because Africa was basically divided, or the colonies of Africa were divided on the basis or like a scramble only. It was used at an intermediate point by Europeans and Portuguese for their trade and other resources and other usage. The Portuguese were the earliest to arrive in Africa, and they tried to propagate the concept of 3G. I hope you remember what is the concept of 3G: God, glory, and gold. Gold because they wanted to have resources, glory of their own nation, and God to spread Christian missionaries. Triangular slave trade was very much prevalent in Africa, and triangular slave trade included England, Africa and America. So, slaves were traded from England, Africa and America, and this was known as the triangular slave trade. So, from Africa, slaves were transported to America and England and other colonies. Ill treatment of slaves were done, which was not liked by Africa as well, and also the trade was done at the coast. So, many powers did not enter Africa initially, but later after the abolition of slavery, when after American Revolution slavery was abolished, the powers entered in Africa and then tried to exploit its resources. Then Africa was explored by missionaries, merchant adventurers, and redrawal of boundaries took place here as well. Finally, in 1884-85, Bismarck's diplomacy worked and scramble of Africa took place. Now, Bismarck was a very efficient diplomat, and hence he tried to use Africa, or he tried to divide Africa between the world powers. Berlin Conference took place, and parts of Africa were divided among different powers of the world. The territories were annexed via paper treaties or very bogus treaties, and finally by 1914 Africa was partitioned by European powers. Now, the question arises that why Africa allow it to be colonized or to be divided amongst different world powers, or why it was so easy to colonize Africa. Now, see, 50% of population of Africa was under already French and British control, so it was very easy, because I have already told you that the League of Nations was mostly dominated by Britain and France. So, British and French controlled almost 50% of the population of Africa. Also, there was an indirect and direct rule. I have already told you that basically colonization and imperialism, either you can rule a country directly or indirectly. So, there were both indirect and direct rule in Africa as well. By 1800s, Britain tried to colonize Africa by infrastructural development. For example, they tried to build Suez Canal so that it could reduce the distance between two destinations. Then by 1899, Boer Wars took place. That was British versus the Dutch, and hence Cape Colony was given to British. So, by indirectly or directly, Africa was already under Britain's control. So, it was quite easy to divide Africa, or to divide the colonies of Africa amongst different nations. Now, we come to the features of imperialism. Firstly, if any country or if any colony is imperialized, it leads to a colonial government, because, for example, India had a colonial government. India was not ruled by an Indian government, but it was ruled by British by sitting in England. Also, exploitation of its people and resources takes place. For example, I am giving you an example of India so that you can relate to it and you will remember it, because if you can have a picturesque or if you can have a vision or can imagine about the colonies, then the best example is India, so that you can easily relate to it and you won't find it difficult to remember. And local chiefs, for example, feudatories are kept in colonies, which also leads to the better control of the imperialistic country over the colonized country. Then civil war between Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda was also one of the factors which led to imperialism as well, or it was also one of the feature of imperialism, because civil war thus takes place in case a country or a colony is being imperialized. So I hope you have read about the Hutus and Tutsis. If not, please read about it and do mention in the comment section what do you know about it. I hope I have tried to make everything clear to you. In case of any query, do mention it in the comment section. Thank you.